Gone are the days where Sevagoth is only used for the Helminth system for his Gloom, and now you're going to be using it for that, and you're also going to be nuking entire rooms. In today's video I have two builds for you guys, one with a little bit more utility, the other one where you're going to be pure nuking everything around you, and without any further delays, let's get into it. 2024 has definitely been an amazing year for Sevagoth. He is glowing and shining bright like a diamond at the moment, and we're gonna start off with his passive and abilities. His passive being when he takes fatal damage he does not die like the rest of the Warframes, apart from some of them. He actually goes into his shadow form, and then you can consume enemies either by attacking them and or using your second ability to revive yourself. You need 5 enemies, so that is pretty easy to get, and then you get revived. You also have the death well, which is in the bottom right hand corner, which you fill up with your first ability, I guess your Sevagoth abilities to allow you to go into your shadow form, but we do not utilize the shadow form, so that means death well is basically not useful. But what is the first ability, Reap. Here we summon our shadow form. It applies Death's Harvest, which is a damage vulnerability debuff, and it does radiation damage, and of course it does the current enemy's health as blast damage, so that's a very cool. What is even better is the augment that we use, a Shadow Haze, where you increase the critical chance on enemies that are already inflicted with Death's Harvest, and a new shadow will emerge that die from, of course, Death's Harvest and this ability, and there is a limit of 3. So this is very cool. This is going to be very fun, especially paired with his second ability. So now you cast this ability in a certain radius, it does a true damage over time, and damage, of course, enemy health done as blast, so that's very cool. But when you combine, of course, Reap on enemies that have been sown, you basically create a chain nuke reaction, nuking in sort of every direction, summoning more shadows because, of course, of the augment that we use, Shadow Haze. And one good thing that we also want to have is Dark Propagation, the other augment for Sow, I guess the first augment for Sow, but the second augment on the build. Enemies that are killed, that are already inflicted by Sow, will spread the affliction in a certain radius, and Shadow's Death Harvest also inflicts Sow. So a lot of Sows. But what you're going to be doing is creating small little new chain nuke reactions by applying your Sow on enemies and then using Reap on your enemies, basically reaping what you have sowed. But we do have the third ability as well, which is Gloom. This will slow down enemies up to 95% and will also have lifesteal, which is pretty good. This is not going to save you a lot of the times, but sometimes it definitely can. And then is Exalted Shadow. We do not use this ability. We are not interested in it. You have 3 different, I guess, abilities that you can use here, but we use Nourish instead. Nourish is the build that you've been seeing in the gameplay in the background. This is the more utility based because we get energy through here, not through, for example, Arcane Energize, but it also gives us vital damage, which is very good and very helpful. Now the second ability is Roar, where we don't have the additional energy benefit, but we gain a lot more damage, so that is definitely very good. But let's cover the Nourish build and tell you what are the differences. We have Brief Respite in the Aura, we have Rolling Guard, Streamline, Umbral Intensify, Stretch, Dark Propagation, Transient Fortitude, Shadow Haze, Prime Continuity, Molt Augmented, and Arcane Energize alongside Prime Sure-Footed. If of course you do not have Prime Sure-Footed, use the base variant and or use Handspring, it is going to be much better. But what are the differences? The only thing, Arcane Energize instead of Arcane Avenger, and that is it. You do not need anything else but the shards. The shards, we have 2 red ones, giving us a total of 20% power strength. We have one blue of 50, and then another one of 75 max energy, a total to 125, and then 25% casting speed through a normal yellow shard. Now you can upgrade, of course, the Teleforged. The only ones that I do not recommend you actually upgrade is going to be the red ones. You do not necessarily need that much more damage, or I guess power strength, but you definitely can do it if you want. But we're gonna get casting speed and power strength through Madurai, String Strength, which will give us ability strength, and then power transfer, which is gonna give us 50% casting speed. So Sling Strength and of course power transfer are gonna be incredibly good for that. We do of course have our weapons. Now, we do want to kill as many enemies as possible. Now, when you zone enemies, the reaping is going to be pretty good because you're pretty much going to be instantly nuking most of them. And the secondary that we use is going to be utilized for two different things. And that is going to be the Epitaph. We have Augur Seeker, Lethal Torrent, Galvanized Diffusion, Prime Fulmination, Deep Freeze, Pathogen Rounds, Augur Pact, Jolt, Lethal Momentum, and Secondary Encumbered. Now, this is going to be our primer. We're also going to be applying Cold, which is going to make enemies susceptible to taking more critical damage. We have Corrosive, reducing the enemy's armor, which is already going to be pretty bad anyway, so we're going to be reducing that. And what is also going to be happening is we're going to be applying random status effect for our melee weapon. We do not use a primary in this build. You can use one. I don't necessarily think you need one, but the melee weapon of my choice is the Cronin Prime. This is just a normal, viral, simple condition overload build, and that is it. You can use the Nakana Prime, Reaper Prime, do Lycor and Cornin, you can use the Sun and Moon, use any weapon that you have that is incredibly good, and just have condition overload, and you're pretty much set, done, and dusted. Now, we do want to talk about our small little companion. It is going to be Nautilus. Now, Nautilus, the build is up on screen right now. Honestly, the most important things that you want to know is Guardian is going to recharge our shields when they break, so that's going to be pretty good. We do, of course, have Mystic Bond, so every time Nautilus uses Cordon, his ability, it is going to allow us to cast an ability for free. So every 5 times we get a free ability. That's pretty cool. But other than that, nothing too shiny here. But how do we actually use this build? What you need to do is basically enter the map, you activate your 4th, either Roar and or Nourish. Now, you might need to give yourself just a little bit of energy to, start off the chain reaction, but basically group up a couple of enemies with your Nautilus and of course apply status effects with your Epitaph, and all you need to do is sow and then reap what you have already sown, and then use that in a cycle. Enemies are going to be pretty much instantly dying, you're going to be applying status effects, you are rarely going to need your melee weapon, and Gloom should be always active just so you get your health back. We're going to be surviving through a shield gating and rolling guard. You have to be careful, you can get instantly shot, so keep that in mind. But other than that, all you need to do is just spam your 1 and 2, and that's basically it. And that is how the gameplay cycle goes. Hello, Editing Gaming Weasel here. Just wanted to pop in quickly and to tell you that you may be saying that the Acolytes might not be dying as fast as you would like. Now, this mostly depends on the amount of enemies that are nearby. The more enemies, the bigger the nuking. The less enemies, the smaller the nuking. But you just have to spawn him next to a lot of enemies, and that's basically it. Now, I guess back to the video. If you do have any questions, do leave it in the comment section down below. If you do think this build was pretty cool, leave a like. If you do, of course, as I said, enjoyed it. If you enjoyed my voice and the video itself, do subscribe. It is completely for free, and I'm very interested in what you guys think of the build. This has been me, the lovely host, Gaming Weasel. I love every single one of you, and I'm over and out.